Welcome to Khanversations. I'm Muqtadar Khan, your host, and I want to talk to you about a conversation that Dr. Jaishankar just had with Marco Rubio on the phone. Apparently, in the conversation, he was protesting strongly. I mean, these are his words, protesting strongly at what the United States has done in the Strait of Hormuz, which is essentially on 3 consecutive days, they attacked 3 ships whose the entire sailor body on the ship were Indians, and in the process also killing 3 Indian sailors. And so India first lodged a protest, if you remember. I think this was on June 9th. And then again, after after the Indian Ministry of External Affairs summoned the charge d'affaires, the number 2, Jason Meeks, I think that's what his name is, the number 2 below Sergio Gore, and told him and registered their protest. So the first time the Ministry of External Affairs announced it, they did not even mention that it was the United States which had attacked Indian ships. And then after the US attacked the Indian ship again, even though the flags are carried by weird countries like Palau and others, countries whose names you probably never heard of, most of the sailors on all these ships were Indians, and then 3 Indians were killed. There's quite a lot of uproar in India about the United States killing these 3 sailors. And so there was expectations that the Prime Minister Modi would say something and Dr. Jaishankar would say something. But India, as usual, when it comes to the United States, India becomes very meek and servile and quiet. If you remember, when Modi came in February last year to meet Trump, India had already, in fact, I had written an article in the Diplomat saying Modi preemptively bends the knee. So the Indians had already reduced the tariffs on certain products before they even met Trump. And this is in February 2025. That's when Modi went. Remember how desperate Dr. Jaishankar was, trying very hard to get an invitation to Modi for Trump's inauguration, and ultimately he did not get one. That should have sent a signal that in his second term, Donald Trump was not going to be that friendly to either Modi or to the United States, to India. But anyway, the public was quite up in arms in India. There's a lot of uproar on social media about the U.S. killing 3 Indian sailors. And then the Indian Ministry of External Affairs issued this statement. Let me share it with you. So this is what the Ministry of External Affairs did yesterday, or now it's already 14th here, so on June 12th. The U.S. Charge d'Affaires, Mr. Jason Meeks, was summoned to the Ministry of External Affairs today, and a strong protest was lodged. There is no number 1, by the way, lodged with him regarding the continuing attacks by U.S. naval forces on commercial vessels carrying Indian mariners in the Gulf of Oman, which have already resulted in the tragic and avoidable loss of 3 Indian lives. And then they say the ministry once again conveyed its deep concern over the use of lethal and deadly force against civilian shipping such actors. So the US, etc., they said, we are very concerned that you're doing this. Look, this is violation of international law. You're targeting civilians in a lethal fashion. What the US is doing is not international law. It is so disagreeing with what the US is doing is not violation of any international law. So the ships were not breaking any law. So the question really is, what authority does the United States have in imposing the blockade? This is just a military action that the U.S. is taking against Iran. So the U.S. doesn't have UN sanctions or UN authorization to act as a policeman in the Strait of Hormuz. But India does not have the guts to say these things to Donald Trump or to the United States. They may talk all they like about, the Prime Minister of India likes to use this phrase in Hindi, "Ghar mein ghus ke marenge," we will get into your house and beat you. They tried that one stunt with in trying to assassinate an American citizen here. They got caught very badly during the Biden administration. And after that, talk like that is not entertained at all with regards to the United States. So This is all that the Ministry of External Affairs had to say. And then we saw today, or not this, sorry, this post by Dr. Jaishankar, India's External Affairs Minister. So this is what he says. I spoke to U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio this evening. I reiterated India's strong protest at the attacks by the U.S. Navy in the Gulf that killed 3 Indian mariners. Such lethal action against commercial shippings are not justified. So I'm not sure what he has said. Basically, this is the same as the text that you can see. So, for example, look at this text. This is the same thing. So his tweet is basically repeating what was said by the Ministry of External Affairs in its readout about the meeting with Jason Meeks. So this is what he says. I called Rubio and I spoke with Rubio and I said we strongly protest what you're doing. No consequence at all right? No demand that the families that have been killed or the soldiers that have, or those mariners who were killed, there should be some compensation to their family, perhaps an apology from the United States. Oh my God. I think just my suggestion that India ask for an apology from the United States will give diarrhea to this administration in Delhi. And so, meanwhile, this is what the State Department posts on its website. Secretary Rubio's call with Indian External Affairs Minister Jaishankar. And in this comment, look at the part that I highlighted. It's a very brief comment. The below is attributable to spokesperson Tommy Pigott. He's the person who said this. Secretary of State Marco Rubio spoke yesterday with Indian External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar. The two officials discussed recent events in the Strait of Hormuz. The secretary stressed that all commercial vessels should immediately comply with orders from U.S. forces. So basically saying all ships, even if they are from India, should immediately comply with orders from U.S. forces as they seek to uphold peace and security in the strait. And then he said he underscored, by underscored means he made it very clear, he emphasized, he said this very clearly to Jaishankar, that violations of the U.S. blockade and the illicit transport of Iranian oil will not be tolerated. So he basically said, we don't give a damn if it's your soldiers or your mariners or your ships. If you violate our blockade, it will not be tolerated. This is how tough guys talk. This is his message to India, very clearly saying, we don't care. We will not tolerate if you violate our blockade. Dr. Jaishankar talks a lot about this is a multipolar world and there are many powers in this world. There is Europe, there is US, there is Russia, there is China, and then there is India. This doesn't look like a multipolar world to me, does it? This is very clearly the superpower dictating to a weaker power how it should accept whatever the superpower does. He didn't even bother to respond to Dr. Jaishankar's tweet. Neither did he even tweet about it. He just asked a subordinate to respond to this and report this readout. This is not even a proper State Department readout. This readout is essentially a comment made by the State Department's spokesperson. Meanwhile, what is the gentleman with a 56-inch chest? Prime Minister Modi in India tries to brag a lot about, oh, we have a 56-inch chest. Apparently he's a very tough guy. And this is what the only thing that he had to say about the US in the past few days is this. Now, let me add that to the state. No, this is not the one. Okay, this is the one. Thank you, President Trump, for your warm wishes. I look forward to working with you to further advance the India-US comprehensive global strategic partnership for the benefit of both our nations and the world. So this is his comment. Narendra Modi, this is all he had to say. I'm going to show you Modi's Twitter account right now. So there are a lot of these people who pretend to be, oh, we love our country, we are nationalists, we care so much about India, we are so proud to be Indians. And all of these nationalists, they become totally shameless when it comes to the Prime Minister Modi's government. They do not demand respect. For example, why aren't they demanding that there be accountability? When India attempted to assassinate an American citizen, and India was caught assassinating some Canadian citizens, the Canadian Prime Minister and the US President both demanded serious accountability. India got rid of the Director General or whatever the chief of RAW was. Then the RAW agent that the US wanted, they put him under some other case and fired him and put him in jail. And of course, Nikhil Gupta, the guy who tried to kill an American citizen, is in jail here in the US. But here, Americans have killed 3 Indians, and all Modi has to say is thank you to Donald Trump. And the reason for that is because Trump and Modi are scheduled to meet at the G7 summit in 2 days' time. And Modi probably is worried that he does not want to piss off Donald Trump. He does not know, can't predict what Donald Trump will say. If Modi says anything in front of Trump, first of all, Modi is going to run away from the press conference. He'll put his tail between his leg and he'll scamper away. So he's not going to take questions from the media. For example, if he dares to take a question from the media, someone will ask him the question. The Americans just killed 3 Indian sailors. What have you got to say? Mr. Trump is right here. What have you got to say to Donald Trump? Imagine a question like that from a journalist. That's not going to happen. So Trump and Modi press conference is absolutely unlikely. I think there's only 5% or even 1% chance that there could be, because Trump might force that there be some question and answer with the press, because he loves doing it all the time. Unlike Modi, he doesn't run away from the press. He confronts the press. He deals with the press. He lies sometimes. He bullshits most of the time, but he's not afraid of the press. Unlike Modi, who will run away from the press like he did in Norway. You saw that, right? With his tail between his legs. But anyway, I want you to see what Modi has been talking about. This is Modi's X account. And everybody in India should be deeply proud of it. Look what he's talking about. This whole thing for the last 2-3 days is about, oh, look at me, I've landed in France. All these Indians are coming and, wishing me hello. And that is it. I'm here in France. And nothing about the 3 sailors, no condolences to their family, nothing. And then he's wishing happy birthday to Piyush Goyal. And then he's talking about some Nari Shakti project of his. And then this is all about congratulations from various prime ministers and head of states, because he has become the longest serving prime minister of India. Like, why would somebody care? What this tells you is that in the past 1 month or so or more, all that Indian foreign service people have been doing is lobbying hard to get this particular congratulatory message sent by all this. See, this is all he has to talk about, not about the Strait of Hormuz or the Indian soldiers. This is, see his comment, this is on June 10th. This is exactly the day when the 3 Indians were killed. Thank you, President Trump, for your warm wishes. This is his warm wishes. Nothing at all. So Modi does not want to upset Trump before their bilateral meeting that is going to take place at the G7 summit in 2 days from now. Modi is already in France. Trump is going to be here tomorrow. He's signing virtually the so-called memorandum of understanding with Iran. I don't know whether that will happen. Even if it happens, whether it will lead to the opening of Strait of Hormuz, that needs to be seen. If it happens, then we will believe it. So Trump is going there on Monday. So most probably they are meeting on Tuesday. But the bilateral between Narendra Modi and Donald Trump has been confirmed. So I think India does not want to rock the boat. So that's why Modi has said nothing to Trump. He's okay. Okay, you kill 3 of people from my country. That's all right. We have 1.5 billion Oh, so what? On an every day, our own people lynch other citizens on a daily basis, so it's no big deal. We are not too worried about it, but I want to have some nice photographs from you, and please say some nice things about me so people in India can misunderstand that as India's glory. So that is what is probably going through Modi's head, that I want to have this meeting without anything that insults him, or Donald Trump says something about India, which he will be forced to challenge Trump. And if he doesn't challenge that, there will be a price to pay back at home. But the Indian voters apparently have become like they have lost complete self respect. So no matter how much Modi bends to the United States, they are okay with it because they are so desperate to migrate to the US, to get H-1B visas, to get student visas, to get foreign investments, etc., etc. Because one of the things on the agenda that the prime minister's visit, if you go back and take a look at it, is that he wants to talk to Donald Trump about H-1B visas, to issue more visas, to expedite the speed with which the interviews are conducted in the US embassy, etc. So I think this is a very, very weak display. It raises several serious questions. One about the international system itself. This can't be an international system at all, which is multipolar. This is clearly the United States exercising its status as a superpower and telling a middle power, go jump. If you don't listen to us, we will shoot. And we will kill, and we will not apologize, and we will not take it back. In fact, for those of you who joined recently, let me tell you exactly what the State Department has to say. He underscored that violations of the US blockade and the illicit transport of Iranian oil will not be tolerated. Very clear. Whatever we say, our edicts, our policies will not, the challenge to our policies will not be tolerated. And now the ball is in the Ministry of External Affairs court. So first of all, like I told you, the mainstream media in India is brain dead, or they're shit scared. Nobody I can guarantee Arnab Goswami tries to talk a lot. He shouted at me like nonstop when I was on his show. All these idiots, none of them has the guts to ask Dr. Jaishankar this question. So when when Rubio told you that none of this will be tolerated, what did you say to him next? Nobody in the Indian media will have the guts to ask him this question. That when Rubio said, did Rubio say that? Is this untrue? Then Jaishankar should say that, yes, Rubio's State Department is lying. Rubio never told me that. But I'm sure he said that. If Jaishankar says they didn't, they'll just play the recording of it probably back at him. So the question is, when what Rubio is saying is very, very aggressive. It is not at all diplomatic. It is pretty blunt. Saying what you did is unacceptable to us. It's intolerable, which means that ships that refuse to fulfill United States demands will not be tolerated. This is exactly what Iran is also saying, by the way, that Iran has no international authority or legal authority over the Strait of Hormuz to block it. It's just using force. India talks a lot about its navy and this and that. Why isn't the Indian Navy right there escorting Indian ships? Why are they relying on Oman to rescue these people? All the three ships, the Jalweer, the Satabello, and the Marvarix, whatever the first one was, all the Indian sailors were rescued by Oman's Coast Guard. Okay, fine, on the first day, but is the Indian Navy there now to protect Indian sailors? No chance. They're not going to go there and face the US Air Force and US Navy. You think the Indian Navy will take on the US Navy if the US fighter jets come and start shooting at ships with Indians? You think the Indian Navy is going to say, all right, let's take on No chance. They'll just do well left. That is why the Indian Navy is not there in the beginning, in the first place. The French Navy is there, the British is there. So if this is a multipolar world, just 2 days ago, Dr. Jaishankar was asked this question: is India a middle power? And his answer was, no, 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 we are much, much more than that. In fact, I did a whole show with that. Kamarchima asked me that question. And I talked about the whole range of, what's a superpower, what's a global power, what's a middle power, what's a regional power, what is a minor power, and so on. So if India wants to pretend that it's a global power, then at least it should protect its own citizens or lodge a serious protest. Just saying this, oh, we protest strongly. The first time they didn't even mention the name of the United States. And when they saw that the public is getting angry, when they saw that the public has become very angry, then they Jaishankar made a phone call. One of the reasons I think that Jaishankar has made this call is because I don't think they anticipated such a strong response from Rubio. So Jaishankar would have said that I made a phone call to Rubio and we registered a strong protest. And the United States said, oh, we are so sorry about this, we'll be careful in the future, or something like that. Okay? So that is what they anticipated the US to say. So now the issue of why didn't Modi raise this issue with Donald Trump to make sure that issue doesn't come up. Don't worry, I will do a full show and definitely raise the issue whether Modi asks Trump about those 3 soldiers or not. So, yes, the Indian media will not raise that issue at all. They're so scared that the moment they start doing real reporting, ED will come to their homes and shut their agency down, or they will be forced to sell their business to Adani like NDTV. So people know what happened to NDTV and other major channels, right? So this is absolutely scary. I think the Indian people should become more demanding of their own government, more accountability. I'm not saying that India should go to war with the US. It would be stupid. But India needs to push back if it wants to maintain its claim that it's a rising global power. Right now, people in Islamabad, in Beijing, are seeing what India is doing and they're laughing at it. And saying, oh my God, even the opposition party keeps saying that Indian Prime Minister is compromised because he's unable to stand up for India against the US. So this is a serious matter, actually, for Indians to consider that why aren't they able to, the only thing that Indians can do is use such abusive language when they talk about minorities. But when it comes to the United States, nobody is able to stand up. It is like total servitude from A to Z, from top to the bottom. The 56-inch becomes 56-inch chest becomes 26-inch, maybe even 26 centimeters, whatever it is. But it is quite ridiculous to see such a big country, such a proud country, a nation of 1.5 billion people, to surrender this way, because their prime minister is unwilling to displease Donald Trump in any way at all. This is absolute. And what is also interesting, I was reading some discussions in India. They said, the Pakistanis are having a good time because the Pakistanis suck up to Donald Trump. Really, the big sucking up was done by Modi, who brought Donald Trump all the way to Ahmedabad and got 1 crore people to come out on the streets to welcome Narendra Modi. And then he stood there and said, "Ab ki baar Trump Sarkar," saying this time Trump's government. And then Modi invited Trump all the way to Howdy Modi event here in Texas and then advocated for Donald Trump. The amount of sucking up to Donald Trump that the Indian Prime Minister has done is nothing. No country on earth has sucked up so much to Donald Trump. And in spite of that, This is where we are today, that India is not able to stand up for its own citizens, not so much so that the Prime Minister doesn't say a word. In 3 days, 3 people were killed. Anyway, this is a very disappointing moment. It tells me that we don't live in a multipolar world. I don't think that the United States thinks that India is a rising power. They're treating it like any other third world country. Can you imagine for a moment that if all the sailors on that ship were Chinese or Russians, would the US have fired a Hellfire missile at that ship? Simple question. You ask yourself this question. The country is supposed to be full of Vishwa gurus, right? World gurus. Ask yourself this simple question. 3 ships on 3 days. If nearly all sailors on the ship were Chinese or Russian, would the United States have fired missiles at them? I will leave you with that question. Thank you for watching Khanversations. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. Like this video, press the bell icon, and share this video with your socio-political network. Until next time, I am your host Muqtadar Khan. Take care.